Hi, welcome back to Anyone Can Paint. Today's going to be our first episode on a new painting. So let me show you what we've got up here, because I know sometimes it's a little confusing. This is going to be a winter scene. We're going to have it maybe a storm's coming in, or maybe it's just leaving, but we're going to have a little bit of some darker clouds up here, a little bit different than what we're used to doing. We'll have some distant mountain or hills in the back. This will get a little bit closer. We'll have one that's closer yet, so these will be layered. There's going to be like a little farm scene in here. And it's going to have quite a bit of snow, and we'll put a little bit of highlighting on the snow. But I can show you how you can make a really effective winter scene without using a whole lot of white. We're going to end up picking up quite a bit of the pink and things that are up in the sky. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start up in the sky as we always do. And I'm going to grab some gesso or white, whichever you have. And I'm just going to get some paint up here on the canvas to kind of get us started. This will help dilute the color right away as soon as it goes up. And I'm just going to spread this around to get an even distributed layer here. And I'm just bringing this down towards where I have my sketch at. And if I paint over the edges, that's not a big deal. That again just is kind of like a guideline to where I want things. It really helps in the planning stage, so you can kind of fit things in and double check your composition to make sure it's got some balance to it. All right, that's good enough to get going. Now I'm going to come down and I'm going to grab some red, but I'm also going to dilute that to kind of pink this up because I don't want this to be really bright yet. And we'll see how this works. I'm going to go right in here and start incorporating this down towards the horizon. This is just going to be like a little hint of this. Maybe I should hint it a little bit more. I'll be right back. Now if you do this, and it gets to be too red, again, just grab some white and go right on top, and you can thin it right back out. And just kind of work this up higher than what you want, because when you put the dark color on it, that will overlap that and kind of help to push that back. So this area can be wider and larger than what you might plan on doing. But again, it'll help that overlap. Just kind of fade it out to the sides. And I think I'm going to put a little bit more white in there, just one more little bunch, just to kind of kill it a little bit more. All right. Then I'm going to go down and I'm going to grab some white and a little bit of blue. And then I'm going to take some of that red over. This is going to kind of make this a little bit of a violet color. And again, you never know what you got till you kind of put it up here. That's not too bad. We'll kind of just work this around. Again, these are going to be the darker clouds that are starting to come in, or they're starting to fade out a little bit. Just as you're bringing it into the color, just really lightly skim over that so it kind of blends into that a little bit. I'm going to go down and grab some more. I'm going to make this a little bit darker, so I'm going to leave what I got, just add a little bit more blue and a little bit more red. And I'm going to darken the corners up. Again, you can just kind of have this coming in, you can fade it in, or you can just leave it choppy. Now the thing with clouds, what can get you in trouble really easy, I'm going to clean my brush to get some of the thickness of the paint out here, and I'll be right back. What's really easy to do is to spend a lot of time up there and trying to get the perfect clouds. And I always used to do that too, and they really looked overworked and they didn't look very natural. The thing is to try to get them in and don't play with them very much. I'm just going to grab more paint, come on the other side, and just kind of let it work its way in and let it kind of do what it wants to do. I think I'm going to add some blue to that color to darken it up again, and a touch of red. And remember, we've got that, either you got white paint or some gesso up there, so this is continuously starting to dilute that color so it's not as bold as it looks like on your palette. I'm going to grab some more paint. I'll be right back. Same colors. I'm just going to bring this down here a little bit further. And you can always go back in your sky, obviously, and change things maybe after it dries a little bit. And I think I'm going to use that same color and come down just a little bit further. I'll be right back. Something like that. I think we'll just leave that as it is for right now. And we'll wait and see when it dries and sets up what we've got left. See if we got to do anything. So I'm going to clean out the brush. And then we're going to start going in and working on that distant mountain. Now, because this is on the ground, you want this to be a little bit darker than the sky, so it kind of shows up. So I'm going to stay with the same colors we were using, maybe add a little bit of white to it. And I'm just going to come up here and block in. I'm going to grab a little bit more blue. That's just a little too purple. And I'm going to grab a little white. This is always about adjustments. There we go. Remember how you don't want to get too dark too soon. You want to get darker as you start building your layers as it comes down the canvas or towards you as the viewer. I'm just going to put in a simple shape back here because this stays in the background. Just kind of work that down near where my sketch is. Again, I'm not just going right to that. I'm kind of overlapping on purpose, just so when we put those other layers in, those will go over the top of the edge. You don't ever want to just get two edges where they kind of meet together. I'm going to grab just a little bit more white. And you'll notice too when you put this up, because your sky is still wet, it'll automatically start to lighten your color up a bit. There. I think we can work with that. All right, next one we're going to do is this one on the right-hand side. Really the same colors. You're going to come in and you want to get slightly darker. So again, this is some blue and red. And we'll go back up and we'll block this in. Now, as you go across here, that needs to be a little bit darker than there. And it's close, but I'm going to do a little bit more. There, and that just kind of cuts in front of that. Then in here, this is just underpainting. You can just kind of throw this in. I'm going to grab some more, and I'll be right back. But you definitely want to make sure you cut in front of that other mountain because it pushes that back and it gives you another little layer of distance in there. And just kind of work this down. We're going to be putting some indications of snow and things on here, so you don't have to worry about your brush strokes a whole lot. And a little bit more to finish that up. And don't ever feel like you've got to get exactly the same color mix as what you used. It can have a variety of different things in there. See, it's got a little bit more red to this one, so I'm just going to incorporate that in. It's not a big deal. That way it's just not one flat color. And I'm going to grab a little bit of white just to kind of go over that whole thing a little bit. So I just kind of spread it around. And that lightens this whole area up because it was getting a little dark. Again, don't worry about your brush strokes. All right, now we're going to jump over to the opposite side, staying with the same color blend. Not as much white this time. And again, you kind of get what you think is right, then you come up, and then you're going to check it out. I'm going to grab some more paint and I'll be right back. I'm going to put a little bit more blue in that color. There we go. And again, you want to cut across both of those. And just kind of make the side or the angle that you have, just make that kind of jagged. Looks a little bit more realistic when you do that, as opposed to just kind of straight down. We're going to work this right down to what the horizon line would be. That's going to be where the mountains and the ground kind of meet. I'm going to grab a little more paint and I'll be right back up. Let me just kind of finish this corner up. Okay. We're going to clean out the brush from there. Our next step we're going to do is we're going to put in the underpainting for the snow. And as I've often told you, snow basically is white. However, it does pick up a lot of the reflection of the sky and things that are around it. So it does have an influence from what's up in the sky. So we're going to put in the underpainting of this. This is going to be some white and some blue. Grab some white and a little bit of blue. And I'm going to blend this slightly. We'll just kind of get it up on the canvas. And just kind of work that up to the bottom edge of your mountain range. We're going to have some bushes that are going to go in there and act as a separator between the ground level and where the mountains are. And this is just the underpainting to this. And again, just kind of throw this in. Don't worry about your brush strokes. You just want to get the canvas covered. I'll be right back. Just grabbing some more paint. Again, I'm kind of following my guideline for this sketch, but not exactly. This time I'm just going to grab some white and blue, which we typically do. It's got some white on one corner of the brush and just a little bit of blue on the other. Remember that a dark color always chews up the light color really quick. And again, if you had some areas that are a little bluer than others, it's perfectly fine. I'll give you an example real quick. If you wanted to do that, it's not going to be a big thing. Some of this is going to show through. In fact, this time, probably quite a bit of this is going to show through. So again, we can later, when we get to the point of highlighting, we can double check that and see if it needs to be adjusted. And I'm going to grab again some more paint and I'll be right back up. Just to finish out this corner. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to shoot across down the up. This is going to be a little creek that kind of winds its way in there. And those buildings back there is going to be a little bit of a farm seam. So now we're going to put the snow in on that side. And it's going to end up covering this little farm area, but I kind of put that on there so you would understand where we're going with this. It's always a little funny every week because we're seen throughout Michigan, but through different stations, they have different shows that they're airing. So we're never quite sure which is airing in a certain city most of the time. And if you happen to miss, as you all know, you who watch the show on a regular basis, it usually takes 3 episodes to finish out a painting. And in the very first episode, much like today, where I talk a little bit about what the subject's going to be and what all the elements in there are, then you have an idea where it's going. But if you miss the first couple minutes of the show where I'm talking about that, and you come to the point maybe to where we are now, although this painting, the underpainting, is not as bad as what some of them are. I often start getting emails later that day or the next day, and it's like, what the heck is this supposed to be? I'm not sure this is going to be anything because, sometimes underpainting can get pretty unattractive depending on what it is that we're painting, that particular painting. But this one, I think, is not quite as bad as what some of them are. Then I'll email back and say, well, this is going to be where this a path going through the forest, something like that, and they'll email back, I don't know how that's going to work. That's kind of ugly. So I always tell them, well, wait till next episode, and we'll start putting a little bit more details in. Alrighty. That's basically where the snow, the ground's going to be. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to block in where this little creek comes in. Again, we can adjust sizes and shapes and things a little bit later, but this way we'll have everything kind of blocked in. This is going to be some blue, and again, a little bit of that red. You want this to be on the dark side, though. And we'll come up here. We'll kind of put this in. Now remember that when you're painting anything that appears to be flat, much like a path, a little creek, maybe if you're painting a sidewalk, maybe in the city or like that, how you obtain that look is by making sure that as you're painting this in, is that you're making your strokes with horizontal strokes. That will ensure that as you're cutting against the side, maybe the bank like in this regard, that your angles are all correct so it looks like it's laying flat. If you start putting your strokes in on an angle, then it's going to look like your path or your water is tilted. And that will even be more true, more so when we start putting the highlights in. I mean, that has a big impact on how your path or your river appear. So if you just get in the habit of just always when you're putting in the underpainting or whatever, just practice your horizontal strokes. And one of the things that I suggest to students of mine when they're not quite sure that they're staying horizontal is make a couple strokes, and if you hold your brush handle against your stroke. So let's say I put this on and I did it like that, but I'm wanting to see if that is indeed horizontal. And if I put my handle over the stroke, you can clearly see that it's not, that it's got to come up like this. And what I see often is that they'll paint the whole path or the river or whatever and then realize that it's on an angle. So you can save yourself a little bit of problems if you kind of do a few strokes, double check yourself, and then you can correct it if that needs to be done. I'm just going to grab more paint and working our way back. And, you know, we've often talked about perspective and how in landscapes, how to make something look like it goes further back into the distance. And this is exactly one of those situations here, is when you're doing a river, or even if it's a path, but you want it to be narrower as it goes back and wider as it comes towards the bottom of the canvas. And that helps fool the eye to think that it goes back in there. Again, this is just underpainted. Don't worry about this part. Don't worry about the colors being nice, flat, and true. They can be kind of off a little bit more red in some spots, a little bluer in others. It's not a big deal. But at least we got everything in place. All right, let's go ahead and clean out our brush. Now the sky appears to be pretty juicy still, so I think we'll just kind of leave that again, and we'll start working below the sky. Now that is pretty well set. We're going to put a small indication of a little bit of snow going back there. Now you don't want to do a lot to this. One of the things that I've talked about in other shows is I have 3 general rules of how you can obtain some distance in a painting. One of those is as things get further away from you, they become lighter in color. And you can see exactly that. Well, this mountain is darker than this one's darker than that one. So it kind of helps put layers in there. As it goes back, it gets less detailed because, you know, and plus it gets smaller. So because of it, the size getting smaller, it has less detail. Now when you're working with lights, you want to save your brightest lights for up close. Then as the lights go back, they get a little dimmer. So don't get too bright back here. This is going to be some white, and I'm going to take some of the colors that I used for that mountain, but it's going to be on the lighter side. So I'm kind of tinting down the white a bit. And we're going to have our light source is going to come probably, it's going to actually come from back in this area. So we're just going to put a little indication of a little bit that's going on in here. Nothing, again, that's very bright. I'm going to add a little bit more white to that so it shows up, because I'm sure that you can't see it very well. There we go. Again, just give some indications of some snow maybe that's back here without covering up all your dark. And what's really deceiving is that if you come down and look at my palette, you can see that that doesn't really appear to be very white at all. But you go up on the canvas, and when you put that color against that dark, it seems to be a pretty light color. So you're probably usually going to have to adjust your color from your palette up to your canvas, because I'm mixing here like on a white background. When you get up to the canvas and actually are putting the highlights on, that's against a dark background. So, you know, you're going to probably have to make adjustments sometimes. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to our next one, and I'm going to take white and some of that color, but remember we added blue to that. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this one. And again, I'm going to guess that this could be right. I'm just going to come up and check it. I'm going to add a little bit more blue to that. Remember, we can get this highlight a little darker because our mountain's getting a little darker. Yeah, that's a good snow color that's in shadows. And you want to kind of put this on without covering up all of your underpainting. Just kind of move this around a little bit. I'm kind of using the corner of my brush, just kind of scattering it around. But again, I'm leaving little pockets of darks. It's really important. Sometimes I push down a little harder into the canvas to get a little bit more paint off. Sometimes I lighten it up, so it's just barely skimming it. That way you get a lot of different value changes. You got some darks, you got lights, you got some where the underpainting is just showing through, some where it's barely showing through. You just want a nice combination of that. I'm going to reload the brush, and I'll be right back. Again, just kind of skimming around. In areas you can put on a little bit thicker than others. Just kind of work that right on down towards where the ground is. All right. Obviously, next thing we're going to do is we're going to jump over on the left-hand side and get that one done. So I'm going to stay with that same color combination, white and blue. And we'll come up here. Now, because this is so much darker, I can almost afford to get a little bit darker with my highlight. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue to this color. Again, this is kind of in the silhouette stage, so you still want to stay a little dark. Again, just kind of work this down and skip around, allowing some of the underpainting to show through. Just kind of follow the angles that you have established already. I'm going to reload my brush and I'll be right back. I don't know if you can hear my brush kind of scrubbing against the canvas, but I just leave it right on the canvas. It's just a pressure thing. Do I apply more pressure here, or do I lighten it up? But remember, just to leave your darks. Grab a little bit more paint. Again, this is going to be some white. And I still have some of that purple color that's in there. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same match. And just kind of keep working this down. Next week, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to establish where the bushes are going to go across here, and that will be our transition subject that kind of transitions from the ground up to the mountains. But see, like right here, I put it on a little bit thicker, so it looks like maybe there's a little bit of a ridge or something, but I left darks behind that, so it really kind of tricks the eye to think like there's some distance in there. But this is the part that if you go in and say, I'm going to keep touching this up, you know, it's always funny because the more you touch up, you're never taking paint away. You're always applying more paint. And it can get to a point that you're just putting in too much. And you can get to the point where it's just like a stroke or two too many, and you've covered most of it up. So just kind of, you got to develop a little bit of a willpower to say, okay, and I'm right about there. That's about enough. So let's go ahead and clean out our brush. And where I'm going to start on these, on those bushes that are going through there, I'm not sure. I'm very confident we're not going to be able to finish them out, but at least I can show you how to get started, and then we'll finish them up next week. This is going to be yellow ochre on my palette. This is a color that we don't use a lot. I tend to use it a lot with autumn colors and things, but in winter scenes it's really nice because sometimes those bushes will lose their color and they turn into this goldish color. So I'm going to use that. I've got this on my small flat bristle brush, and right in here I'm just going to suggest some bushes. And don't worry about the bottoms of these because we can always go back and straighten those up and settle those down a little bit. I'm going to grab more paint. I'll be right back up. And again, this is just acting as a separator between the ground and the mountains. And I'm just coming here and tap, just kind of make some interesting little tops, because again, these are further back. You're not going to see much detail to them. And this is about as far as we're going to get. I'm going to imagine the old clock on the wall. Pretty soon the music's going to start. We're going to have to stop for this week, but then next week we'll just pick this right back up where we leave off at. And don't worry about making this straight. Remember, this is the ground, so it can be kind of hilly and little irregular as the ground usually is, especially when you got snow cover. Kind of drifts and mounds up and things. And that's about as far as we're going to be able to get. I got close to finishing. But go ahead and get your painting to this part that we're at now. You have a lot of fun with the sky. Loosen it up, let it go. We'll use a lot of white to kind of keep it thin. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your loyalty in watching. We hear a lot from you every week, and it's great to hear from you. So get your painting to this stage. Next week you can catch back up with us. Thanks again so much for watching. We'll see you next week.